A hearty welcome, Earl Hendricks.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Radio 786 for part 2. Excited to be back here. Thank you for allowing us to come back.
I'm just now, are you welcoming yourself
I
for
know,
part 2? I'm confused here.
As I'm speaking, it was sounded very different in my head. I'm gonna stick to acting.
En jy is mos nie mooi ene sê nie.
I am.
Okay, nou
That's
leave
what I
it there.
tell myself.
But if you remember, so for the listeners, just for the listeners, if they remember, you shared your story with us. Just give them a recap of what we spoke about and what story we're talking about, just very briefly.
So, Lost Hope is a short film based on my childhood lived experiences. I'm many things, but I am a survivor. Not a victim, I'm a survivor, because words are so important. I'm a survivor of childhood rape, molestation, and I'm also a survivor, and I'm still battling with mental health issues, depression and anxiety. And that's what this film is about. But this film is also about resilience. It's also about brotherhood and how love can save your life. So there's many layers to Lost Hope.
Love it. Love can save lives, and
Okay.
love it takes. I came across a short TikTok about love and the power of love, and how love is not just about husband and wife and partners. It's deeper. So, which you've just now obviously alluded to. So thank you so much for that, Earl. And of course, all of this happened to Earl at the tender age of 8.
Between the ages of about 8 and 11. But it started at the age of 8.
Thank you so much for that. Let's also welcome Cape Town-based filmmaker, as I said, Leslie Norman. A hearty welcome. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jamila. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you for being here. So, Earl has, given us a little bit about what Lost Hope is about, and maybe you can just add on if you like, please.
He basically kept it all up. It's about brotherhood, the power of friendship, and actually speaking up, and not being afraid to speak up, because that's ultimately what destroys you.
Now, yeah, and I wanted to just maybe rewind a little bit how the two of you, that is Earl and Norman, came to working together and being inspired to do a film called Lost Hope.
Yeah, so we previously met when we were working on the Project Ardens Fly, and Earl did a story previously that more or less based on the same concept, but it didn't work out. And he asked me if I could get involved, help out, let's see how far we can get, rewrite. And we reworked the whole story, added some new characters, because one of the main things I also believe is your tone of the story is very important. So I felt there was a massive need for comedic relief, because you can't just be heilerig the whole time. You need to take the audience through over a roller coaster.
Because life is not just, it's not all doom and gloom. So we wanted it to be realistic, and so the film, there's it's full of aina moments, but there's also moments where we sat in at screenings and people are clutching their stomachs. So there's the film has different shades to it. So it's not just one thing; it's many things, and so you go from crying to laughing as an audience member.
And the audience members also, I feel a lot of filmmakers, they don't realize how intelligent the audience, the viewer really is. So for me, an important part was making sure I don't spoon feed the audience. They must feel that they're connecting the dots. And shock value, we need to have some sort of shock value in there. And there is something that gets them every time. That's awesome. But yeah, that's basically.
Norman, I want to maybe just stick with you for a bit, and as the director, so you're the director, right, of this movie Lost Hope. What was your vision for the film, and how did you approach such a sensitive topic or sensitive topics?
I think with filmmaking especially, a lot of people try to be too literal, and how you show things, different camera angles, and suggesting things.
Yeah.
You don't have to show a rape scene, but you can suggest it. And that makes all the difference, because you do it with taste. Your production value picks up more. It doesn't feel cheap. I think that was my main drive with it. I'm a massive film fan, so I follow films like Tarantino and Tyler Perry, lots of American-based filmmakers, and like music is also a massive thing. And I feel that music is cheapened up a lot, and to make sure I have the proper music we don't normally use locally, but it takes the viewer through the emotion that they see on screen. That was also quite important for me.
I also want to touch on Lost Hope. How when did this when was the seed planted and of course to where you are now? Both of you can answer that. Let's start with Norman.
It's been...
Let's start with Earl.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. My intrusive thoughts won.
It was before COVID.
It was before COVID.
A bit before COVID. COVID actually interrupted us. That was our first interruption, COVID. That paused the production process. But it was... What year was it?
2018.
Yeah.
I started on Ardens Flay.
Right.
So I think it could be 2019.
I was there in 2018. I only was at Ardens Flay for the first year.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, 2018.
Yeah.
Okay. So please, I just want to, get the understanding of from 2018, so the seed was planted and how this all came to flourish.
And then we, so I as I've said before, I'm not a writer, or I don't see myself as a writer. That is something. I'm very respectful of people, of titles. There's a lot of people who just, I'm this, I'm that, and that's okay. But for me, I'm respectful of titles. So I'm not always going to be comfortable saying, even with the title of producer, I still don't feel comfortable accepting the title because it comes with so much work, and this is my first or second film that we've done together. I feel I'll accept that in a couple of years. Maybe I don't feel I've put in enough. But when it comes to acting, I accept that title. So having said that, I wrote the story, an outline of the story, and then I gave it to him, and then he came up with a script, an amazing script, and then we were going to shoot, but we did. There was about two or three rewrites before we decided to shoot. But then lockdown happened, and then when lockdown was done, we were going to shoot again, and then something else happened. But the interesting thing is that with each setback, what we thought was a setback actually was I can't find the words right now, but it ended up being the biggest blessings, because with each setback, we went back to the drawing board. We paused for a bit, went back to the drawing board, and then in those moments, new ideas came to us where we were able to add another character or another layer or another storyline. And so timing is everything. God's timing is everything. So by the time we ended up shooting last year, I'm so glad it took us 5 years. I'm glad because the story had a solid foundation. We had a solid foundation, and it wouldn't have been the same had we done it before lockdown.
Love it. Yes, indeed. Norman, so scriptwriter. He had the outline. You now had to. He gave you the skeleton, for example, and you had to put it together, put meat in there. Take us through that, scripting it. And look at him. Why is he laughing? All right, that's naughty laugh. But I'm not going to look at him, Norman.
Yeah, I just took it from the basics, where a story has a start, a middle, and an end. And you don't want to give away too much. I saw he had this basic story, but you need supporting characters, and strong supporting characters at that. You need the Joker, you need a nurturing character. So there was a lot of that I added for a reason. And at times it was difficult, where we sat fast a bit. And
nice.
You have your reasons for doing certain things, because it comes, it's like a domino effect down the road. But we're not always seeing totally eye to eye. But I think that's for the best, because it takes me back to reevaluate certain things that I'm thinking. And it was a challenge, but it was an awesome experience to work through, because it really gave me a chance to really reflect on my ideas.
Okay, now I'm looking at this now. Now we've got the script, right? We've got a script. Now you need characters, isn't it? You need to get those actors, actresses, and so on. What was that task all about?
That was Earl's baby.
Was that Earl's baby?
That was Earl's
okay.
baby.
So the initial film that I did, a version of Lost Hope, but it was the basic story of my story, but it was very different to Lost Hope. And so, and like Norman said, things didn't work out. But of that cast, two of those cast members I brought over to Lost Hope. So we had those two characters. And then the other characters, again, the universe, God, just brought people into my space. And two of the characters, I met them at castings.
Yes.
Didn't know them from above soap, but we got to speaking and something just clicked, and I explained the idea, and they were like, "Would love to do it," and then they came on board, and it just worked. We ended up becoming like a family. The group of us.
Nice. Now, as the director, Norman, it's different people with different personalities obviously coming together and to direct them. How challenging was that? I know Earl was a challenge on its own, but we'll talk about the others now.
It was quite challenging because everybody's there, everybody's passionate, but it's a very informal set.
Okay.
So when the conversation gets going, it gets going. And you don't want to be the sour guy saying, okay guys, we have to be serious now. You have to give it time to phase out, or it is time you can tell them, listen guys, now we really have to start getting going now. But because I directed, shot, and I edited it. So I had visions of how I can put the different stuff together.
I see.
From the very beginning. So then the guys would be like, okay, but we got it from this angle, why do you have to do the reverse angle as well? And there's a certain film language I was going for. And once you watch it, everything comes together and you're like, oh, now I see why I did that. So it was challenging. It took a lot of patience because you don't necessarily want to explain everything you're doing, but you have to. It's a very small, tight-knit crew set, and it's very unorthodox the way we're doing things with a cell phone and with ring lights because we don't have professional lights. Yeah. We had one I think, good light. So you just have to understand that you're not going to get everything you wanted or you saw it going in your head. It won't go that way. But here we are. People are here. Just go with the flow and adjust.
Love it. Now, both of you have highlighted the importance of creating that safe spaces for men. Can you elaborate on what that looks like in practice?
So, with safe spaces, there's actual organizations that are doing amazing work where I found myself sitting in these rooms. I think the first workshop that I went to was in July that we went to with I've got before so that I don't get it wrong.
Right.
It's Judy Kennedy. She's got an organization called Inside Out NPO, and they invited us to screen Lost Hope at this workshop, and it was titled Rethinking Masculinity. And for the first time in 43 years, I was sitting in a room where men and women, but there was mostly men, we were having these conversations about masculinity. We spoke about toxic masculinity, social perceptions, the true meaning of manhood in our communities and households, things like that. And then from there, we got invited. There was one of the guests there that works at Stellenbosch University, a doctor, and she invited us to come and screen Lost Hope at Stellenbosch University. Nice. So it was the Division of Student Affairs in collaboration with the Equality Unit. So they hosted 4 separate anti-GBV and positive masculinity dialogues, and then Norman couldn't make it, so I ended up being a...
But we had two of the campuses. The first one in Stellenbosch itself, there we both were. The second one at the time
yes, we were
campus,
at 2. We were at 2. And
there was 2 screenings.
But then the other one, he couldn't make it, and then I ended up being a guest speaker there. And we touched on things like empowerment, toxic stereotypes, healthy relationships, patriarchal norms in terms of how this is how my dad and my grandfather and my Opa Grootjie used to behave and used to treat women and children, so therefore it should be normal. And I'm sitting back and I'm thinking, how did I go my whole life not having these conversations? And so there are people and organizations that are doing it, but also safe spaces is not always an actual space. It could be people, it could be a person. So in practice, as a person, be the person in your friendship circle, in your family spaces, at your work, where you are a safe space and men feel comfortable to come and speak to you. If they have issues where you're not going to judge them, show up for the men in your life, support them, show them love, show them compassion, and let them know that it's okay to speak to you, because you're not going to judge them, you're not going to shame them, you're not going to look down on them, you're not going to think less of them. So that is safe space in a person.
But just before you
please
on,
do.
I didn't end over there, because we also had a screening at the Kuna Art Institute at the castle, that's where we met Molo Songololo. So
that's
up until that point,
up
until that point, we've been interacting with adults, which was awesome, because the feedback, you see how they come to Earl and they tell him about their stories after it, and that was amazing. We'd love to tell examples, but obviously we don't want to go into that. But then Molo Songololo came to us, and we ended up in Delft, going to schools. The schools will invite us to come to him after a while. But the groups are about 30 on average. The last school in Mitchell's Plain was 60 kids. That was the biggest group. We did 4 schools in Delft, and then 1 school in Mitchell's Plain. Earl's going back to Delft now on the 30th. For SAPS.
Because now the
SAPS invited him for forum.
SAPS in Delft, they also doing some work with boys. So now they want to screen Lost Hope there, and I'm going to go and speak to the boys there. But we had this. We were brainstorming a couple of months back, like, how do we take Lost Hope to another level? Should we take it, turn it into a theatre production, and maybe tour schools? But then, long story short, we ended up thinking, okay, let's try and get into schools. But it takes so much to get into schools because red tape, and rightfully so. But listen, when what's meant for you won't miss you. And one meeting with Molo Songololo after our screening at the castle, at the Kuna Art Institute, one meeting with them, and we explained everything. 3 weeks later, signed, sealed, delivered. We're busy doing workshops in Delft. And we initially had 5 schools. 1 school dropped out because of schedules. And then when it was done, word of mouth started spreading of the work that we are doing. And then we got invited to Mitchell's Plain, and it was double the number of students.
Lovely.
And here's a very interesting thing. These boys are very rowdy at the best of times. And in Mitchell's Plain, there was actually...
There was the most intimidating one.
These are high school students. But we found out afterwards that there are actual gang leaders sitting in that space who are on school. But you know what? They are very rowdy and wow. But once the film started playing, silence. And then when we go up and we speak about what the film is about, and I say to them, this happened to me. And they're like, were you raped? And I say, yes, I was. I call it what it is. And I tell them, I grew up in a Seikaisi. I grew up poor. And I think that's when it really hits home. Because you can see the wheels turning in these boys' minds, because it's like, this brah made a success of his life.
Yeah.
And he went through what I'm going through. It's the relatability. And that's why representation is so important. They see you doing it, and they believe that they can also.
So together we are discussing the inspiration behind the film Lost Hope and the importance of addressing men's mental health and how we can all contribute to breaking the silence. Now, we just before the break, a lovely discussion and how partners, the partnerships that you've built up and how you've gone into schools and what differences that you are and the difference that you're making or bringing to those children. And just off air, we spoke, Norman and Earl, we were speaking about how these children, after the screening, after your talks, how they do come up to you to talk, right?
They come in and they either say thank you because we are opening their eyes to things that they don't get to speak about in terms of the mental health issues. But then there has been instances where, and even at the sessions with the adults, where people have come up to us and they said, this has happened to me as well.
Wow.
I feel seen. I now know that it's okay. Like you're making me feel comfortable to go and seek therapy and to speak to the people in my life. And that is the biggest gift that I feel that we can get as filmmakers and as storytellers, telling this particular story, that we are impacting these people's lives in a positive way. Because for us, it's if we make a difference in just one person's life, then thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, God.
Absolutely. So what do you hope audience take away from Lost Hope, and especially regarding men's mental health and, of course, the abuse?
That some things shouldn't be swept under the rug. We want to entice more conversations about the taboo topics. People should feel more able to speak openly about it. If we can get it right, then I've served my purpose, I think.
Thank you so much for that, Norman.
I want us to get to a point where colored boys, colored men feel safe, where they feel seen, where they feel heard, where they are allowed to express their emotions and not internalize it, because a lot of the violence on the Cape Flats, and I'm not making excuses, rather giving a one of the many reasons why there's a lot of these hardcore, hyper masculine, macho, alpha male gangsters and colored men walking around in our communities who are committing all these crimes and destroying people's lives through senseless acts of violence. And a lot of them are broken little boys inside who never got the chance to put their hands up like I did and say, I need help, I'm not okay. And so I feel like if we can just normalize these conversations where and let colored boys be soft. Let them cry, let them feel, let them speak. I feel like they will hopefully grow up to be young men and young adults who don't feel the need to live that whole thing of hurt people because they are okay inside of themselves, and if they are hurt, they can express it in a constructive way, because all that pain inside, keeping all of that pain inside, you're gonna hurt someone else or you're gonna hurt yourself, because it needs an outlet. It's gonna explode at some point.
I just want to add on to that, Earl. Why do you think then it's crucial for men to speak out about their experiences, particularly, as you mentioned, in the coloured and the black communities?
For exactly what I said, where the thing is, and aside from the factors that I mentioned now, and how it speaking up impacts our community as a whole,
right.
but on a personal level, we are losing a ridiculous amount of colored and black men to suicide because they feel so lost, they feel alone, they feel ashamed to speak up. So we need to make more safe spaces, and we need to make it okay for colored and black men to be able to speak up, so that they don't end up throwing their lives away or killing themselves or hurting other people in our communities.
I just want to rewind on that point for benefit of the listeners that perhaps missed last week's conversation, where Earl was on the verge of also committing suicide, right, Earl?
Yes.
And take us perhaps just for the listeners to understand why you're so passionate about what you are doing and what you advocating.
So the thing is with suicide is that most people, they don't want to kill themselves, but I personally got to such a dark space where I felt that there was no other way out, because you get tired. The pain is exhausting, and not just the pain is exhausting, the pain often comes with mental health issues, which that in itself is exhausting, and the combination, and then also living with all of those things in secret, it takes a toll on your mind, your body and soul. And I reached that point where I was on the edge of that dark abyss that people don't come back from. But I made different choices, and I spoke out, and that's why I'm here today.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Norman, how do you envision the workshops and the discussions evolving from the film Lost Hope? What role do you see them playing in the community?
I think it's going to be very, very important in the communities. With this whole Molo Songololo initiative that's already materialized or have come to life. But we have plans for next year with further screenings to work with kids to go back to a follow-up meeting. So it's not just a once-off thing. I mean, a shocking stat for me, I still lose sleep about it some nights, is the fact that in October alone, there was 35 school children killed in Delft. In violent manners.
In Delft alone.
In Delft alone. So that for me is a serious problem. It's 35 potentials. It's gone. So we want to see if we can somehow bring about change, even in a little way, with film, which we really think we can. Ultimately, we want to bring about change, positive change.
Yeah. You want to add on to that, Earl?
So I don't want to give too much away, but we've got this idea that we are working on, and listen, we've had crazy ideas before and it's worked, but we've got an idea of we want to empower the kids at these workshops to also tell their stories. That's all I'm going to say, but it's going to be a game changer for them. So I'm excited for 2025. I'm excited because Lost Hope is not just a film. It started off as this small film, but it's become a movement.
As a movement.
It's become a movement. And the people that we are reaching, it just keeps growing. And so, check out our social media for what's happening in 2025, because there's some very interesting twists and turns and amazing things happening that I'm dying to speak of, but let me bite my tongue.
Not just yet.
Not yet. Okay, but we can speak about then some of the feedback, right? So maybe, Norman, can you share any feedback or reactions you've received from viewers since the film's release? Both of you can maybe just touch on that.
That feels a bit of a difficult question, because there's certain scenes that you always get reaction, and seeing the different people react to that scene has always been insane. But we always get the reaction, and we always get a positive reaction. So it's just the fact that people are seeing something new. That with the school kids, they had to start their lives. With older people, it's different, because a lot of people went through the confusion of sexuality, and to see how they respond to certain scenes, that's really amazing. Because it's really something that people feel wasn't touched before on screen, especially in the colour community, Cape Town's colour community. And to see the responses is really exciting. I wish I could really tell more, but if we're going to tell too much, we're going to give everything away.
You want to comment on that?
I think what gets people, aside from the fact that we're speaking about important issues, I think a huge thing that a lot of people are getting excited about in terms of Lost Hope, and after watching Lost Hope, is that it's not a film that is deeply rooted in stereotypes, because I think as a people we are tired of only ever being portrayed in this one small box. There's so much more. Yes, gangsters and the stereotypes is part of our colored communities and part of our culture, but that's exactly it. It's a part. There's so many other parts to our communities, to what makes us people of color, to what makes us colored. And so why are we only focusing on those stories? But now there's not just us, but these other colored filmmakers that are telling stories outside of that small box. And that's what's so exciting, like where we are going with colored storytelling, because there's so much more to us. We have such a rich, diverse, exciting, interesting mix of inside of us as colored people.
Yeah.
So those stories are starting to be told.
People are asking, so where can they where can the screening or the Lost Hope, where can that be? Where can they go and to see and watch this?
People must like our pages, and then they'll say after that, with the screenings coming in 2025. The main issue now is we can't broadcast it online, because then a lot of competitions won't allow us will be disqualified.
Okay.
So we kept it a bit close to the chest for the school kids, because everybody sees it before the time. The whole surprise of it is taken away, and the vulnerability that they feel when the movies end, it really gives us that gap to actually talk to them and get through to them. So we feel it's important now to keep it close to the chest so we can show it from a case-to-case situation. But we're definitely arranging more screenings for 2025.
Once the film festival competitions are done, I think it's done end of Feb, because it's a whole couple of months process. So the last of them is in Feb. So we are planning to have more public screenings. We're looking at after March, April next year.
Okay.
But like Norman said, check out our Facebook page.
So do give us the social media handles.
It's Lost Hope Short Film.
That's it.
That's it on Facebook.
Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. I'm looking at the poster, right? And it says here the past becomes the present. Talk to me about that.
It's the trauma that happened in the past. You think you get over it, but eventually it boils up, and you're stuck with it. It's not going to go anywhere. It's just going to come out in a negative view. I don't know if you have more to elaborate.
Who we are today, you as you're sitting here, Jamila, you are who you are because of your childhood.
Correct.
So those those early years, I was going to use a big word now, but yeah.
I play it safe.
Rather play it safe. Stay in my lane. But those early years, it forms you, it shapes you. And so the things that happened back then, whether good or bad, it makes us who we are today. You can't escape your past.
But we'll school with that poster also. It's what we try to tell through the story is it's two individuals coming from the same past, but end up totally different as well, being the two brothers now, Daryl and Nigel. And it's just the effects of trauma is so vast. We just wanted to shed some light on it a little bit.
So here's these two brothers, they go through the exact same thing, and how trauma impacts you. My character, Darren, he becomes an overachiever, super successful, but behind closed doors, he's dealing with his own demons. He's dealing with being confused about his sexuality, because that is a very real life consequence of being raped as a boy child by a man. It is a very real consequence. So that's what, and he deals with. He has addiction problems, but it's alcohol, so it's almost acceptable, but still hidden away. Whereas Nigel, and then he also deals with mental illness issues, but you don't see it. Whereas Nigel, you see it. It's very visible. It's very visible, and they both went through the same thing in the same household. But look how trauma impacted them in completely different ways. And that actually happens. I've seen it happen.
All right, we need to wrap up, gentlemen. So, Norman, your final words, perhaps, or message of hope and healing you'd like to share with listeners.
I would say family is very important. Yeah, just family. I don't know, that's basically all I have. Family isn't necessarily always blood related. Family can also be close friends. So keep your circle tight and speak up.
And speak up, indeed. All right, shall we give it to the pretty boy last?
Yes.
Okay. Let's leave what do they say? The best.
The best for last.
Yes. Your words, not mine.
we can actually hear it coming from you, so without you even saying a word. So we'll give the best for last.
If there's anyone that's listening that has gone through what I went through, that is going through something similar, is anyone that's listening that's gone through any kind of pain, it is possible to find happiness. It is possible to break free from the shackles of that pain. Because if I can do it, then anyone can. Don't give up on yourself.
So if people want to perhaps speak to the two or reach out and they feel they want to reach out to the two of you, are you open to share contact details? Or
they can
not
just
at
on
the
the Lost Hope page after they give us a nice like also. And we will definitely respond.
Okay.
But yeah, no, definitely.
They can also on our Instagram pages as well. If they're on Instagram, Earl Craig Actor 1. That's my handle on Instagram, and then we've got the Lost Hope page on Facebook.
That's probably the easiest because we both want to see it.
It's easier. Just the Lost Hope page on Facebook.
Gentlemen,
send us a DM or comment on one of our posts, and
we'll respond.
We'll take it from there.
oh, thank you so much for being so brave, and all of the best going forward.
Thank you.
Loved having you in studio, and of course, Norman, you too.
Thank you
Lovely,
very much.
and all of the best and all the success. And do keep us posted about the screenings and what's going to be happening, so that we can be part of it as well.
Now you guys will get invites to the next screening, the next public screening. Yeah.
Must I dress up and things? I hope.
Even like,
You always look amazing.
always like this is marvelous, so it's no problem.
Blushing. Thank you to the gentleman. Earl Hendricks is a multifaceted South African actor and filmmaker, and a captivating performer, and with a strong creative vision. And don't forget, he's by a Moise, he's the Rose as well. And of course, Norman Leslie, also Cape Town-based filmmaker with a deep passion for storytelling and a drive to create meaningful films that sparks conversation. So Lost Hope. Go to their Facebook page and interact with them, engage with them.